Hey guys, we're in the kitchen today. It's a little cramped, but I've got some good food related ideas for you. And this video is dedicated to Charles Poliquin. Charles is a well-renowned strength and conditioning coach. He's actually done a lot for me personally from my own training and also the way I help to coach clients of my own. And I mean, he's responsible for a lot of Olympic gold medals, so he really knows what he's doing, everything strength and conditioning, and somebody I have a lot of respect for. He's written an article fairly recently, which was also a question to his readers, and I just wanted to offer another perspective on what he's put forth. So I'd like to preface the video by saying that this is in no way a judgment. I just wanted to offer another perspective and get you guys thinking, just thinking outside the box and questioning some of the things that you may consider as normal, especially in the strength and conditioning world. So the letter goes like this. Sigmund Freud estimated that all successful health professionals had two vices. For him, cocaine was one of them. I'm not sure cocaine's a vice. When it comes to diet, and there's a few words here that are interesting to me, diet's one of them. When it comes to diet, I don't know successful leaders in the industry who are fanatics 100% of the time. They all have a weakness for something. I don't quite agree with this. I mean, a weakness could be, if you're an athlete or, if you're in the health industry, I don't see how it would have to be for food. A weakness could be overtraining. That's a weakness, that you're having to overtrain. It could be a weakness for, sex or drugs or anything else. But also, I'm not sure that it's acceptable to have food as a weakness, and I'll touch on that again later in the video. But it goes on. For example, I was talking to John Kiefer and told him frankly that if it was only up to me, I would love to refuel on Krispy Kreme glazed donut and cold milk. I admit it. He confided, that's another interesting word, that he preferred Dunkin' Donuts. The problem for me with Krispy Kreme and milk is that I am severely intolerant to both wheat and cow's milk products. The worst part is that recent lab testing shows the inflammatory response manifests itself for me in brain and joints. So the next day I'm severely depressed and my shoulders feel like they were injected with napalm. So since I liked being happy and pain-free, I refuel on mango sticky rice and Cocomel caramels, which I actually looked up, so we don't get them in Australia as far as I know. I want to see what you like to eat when you are naughty. And naughty is another word I'm just not sure I gel with. So what I want to do is just touch on a few of these words. Firstly, successful, when he talks about successful leaders in the industry. When it comes to success, a lot of us measure success as, it's a pissing contest, like who's got the most clients, who's got the biggest headquarters, who's written the most books, who's got the most likes on Facebook. Whereas success truly is measured by the inner peace that a person has, and the alignment with their purpose in life is what true success is. And the Matrix world will have you believe it's all to do with cars and money and houses and followers, when in reality success is measured in an internal way, and it's not really something we can measure, it's just something that you feel. And I'm not sure whether you'd agree with this, but if you look at successful people in almost any industry, and you look at truth versus hype, hype outsells truth 1,000,000 to 1 any day of the week. So quite often you have people that are giving out a lot of information and things that are very, very good at hype and talking and motivating people and creating a stir, and aren't giving out very, very good information, but people are hypnotized into thinking that, it's good. And if they've already got some followers, then, a lot of people are like sheep and they'll go and follow suit as well. So just be aware and question if you think you're talking to a successful person or you're getting advice from a successful person, just question what sort of success that they actually have and where that success is coming from. The word fanatics is a little bit, to me, I'm not sure why you would, let's say you're walking the path as a health professional and you're saying one thing but your other face is doing something else. It's just, to me, it's strange that you would go and talk about eating well and eating organic and doing something else, and then behind the scenes you're smoking cigarettes, drinking till you puke, and eating your burgers and things on the side. And it's actually quite common. It's one of the reasons why when I was growing up as a kid, I didn't actually look up to many adults at all, because I could see in so many cases all these flaws in people that they just weren't recognising. They were accepting as a weakness, and oh yeah, that's just my weakness. But I never really, even as a kid, I never quite accepted that as something that should hold true. So actually, here's a quote. There's a guy, Dan Millman, wrote a book, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Now this quote has to do with moderation. and how people say, oh, everything in moderation is fine, and if you're going to go into a healing protocol with diet, or for any particular purpose, oh, it's okay, just do it 80% of the time, and the other 20%. To me, that's an excuse. That's just people's way out of a lot of things, and almost everybody uses that. And again, it's very hard to find a true health professional that is 100% of the time walking the walk. So this quote kind of goes a little bit extreme in the opposite direction, but it at least highlights the futility, I think, in moderation. So the quote is this: moderation, it's mediocrity, fear and confusion in disguise. It's the devil's reasonable deception. It's the wobbling compromise that makes no one happy. Moderation is for the bland, the apologetic, for the fence-sitters of the world afraid to take a stand to live or die. Moderation is lukewarm tea, the devil's own brew. So, whether or not you agree with the use of those words in particular, he does make a good point on moderation. The other term here is health professionals, and I've already sort of gone into this, but just an example of this is Don Tolman, who's fairly well renowned as a health professional. And he did a convention on the Gold Coast fairly recently, and the thing is, one of my good friends, is a AV technician, and he was working at the gig. And when they went to get this guy, because he was going to come on stage, they found him at the back eating French fries. And it's just, it depends. This isn't a judgment, again, it's just everyone makes their own choices. But for me, I talk about eating organic foods, I talk about eating whole foods, I talk about eating natural and doing all this thing. And if I'm doing a seminar somewhere and I don't have access to clean organic food, and I'm only there for a day or two, I'll just fast. I'm not going to go and compromise and go and eat, takeaway food, because it's just not, A, it's not in alignment with my values, and B, I'm not going to support the matrix and the system that gives us a world that has much more of those sorts of foods than they give us this, sources of organic foods and things which actually help the planet, and they're giving us an abundance of foods that are actually degrading the planet. So it's going to get to the stage where, I don't understand how a lot of people can't see where this is going to lead in the future, but again, that's for another video. And then the other thing is, when he was in the seminar, one of the audience members asked how she could get better sleep, and his answer was, get a better pillow. And that wasn't sarcasm, that wasn't a joke answer, that was his actual answer to how to get better sleep. And, no mention of diet, no mention of thoughts, the way your lifestyle, everything like that. It was all to do with just buy a better pillow. So, that's not the question right there. One of the reasons, as I say, I don't agree with, let's say, eating Krispy Kreme donuts or whatever, is that I bet everything that at least some of those ingredients come from another country. They've been grown in an environment that's degrading the land. They've probably been used slave labour to create and package that. It's being processed, which is putting a lot of harmful pollutants in. Just the degradation of the land is one thing, but it's also the energy it's putting into the earth. It's just the negative energy, as opposed to if all of those ingredients had have come from locally sourced or locally farmed ingredients. It's all kept local, it's all grown organically, and it's actually sustaining and helping the earth. It's a completely different thing altogether. And it's just important to remember that even if you want to, say, take some drugs or eat some donuts, and you always think that you're only harming yourself, and that's the way the Matrix leads us to believe, is that we're all separated, but everything we do is inextricably linked to the rest of the earth and every other human being and living organism on the planet. So to think that just eating a donut, it's okay because it's only hurting me, it's not. Again, it's not a judgment, this is just the truth and the reality of it. So it's something that, if you want to do that and you're aware of that, that's your choice. I'm not going to say don't do it to anybody. But a lot of people seem to just be completely unaware that everything is related to everything else, and eating a donut doesn't just hurt you, it is actually hurting a lot of other things. So what I'm going to do is show you how you can make a donut that doesn't hurt you or everything else. One last point here on bodybuilders. So there's the idea, to me, as I say, of a cheat day and cheat meals and things. I don't really get it. And this is when we get into deeper levels of why people do what they do. So people will come to me and say bodybuilders. I don't train a lot of bodybuilders because I don't really 100% agree with, especially how it goes these days, and the fact that everybody wants to be big and they don't even know why. So a bodybuilder will come to me and they'll tell me their goals. And then I want to know if they're actually committed to doing it. Is it just something they're saying that they want, or is it something that they actually want? So then I'll ask them, how committed are they? What are they going to do to actually get to the goal? And, you know, especially the guys that want to get big, they'll tell me that, you know, they'll break a leg and they'll get straight back in the gym. It's not going to bother them. They'll rip their own arm off. They'll pull their head off just to get huge. They'll do whatever it takes. So then, you know, we'll look at their diet and we'll start taking things out. But it turns out they're not willing to go to bed without their milk and cookies and their little blankie to snuggle up in. And so, you know, they're really not addressing the issues that they have that are driving them to become bodybuilders, that's another video altogether. But the point is, I just don't get this separation. They're not integrated. So if you're not integrated, you're going to say all these things, but then, you know, you can't go without eating donuts and things. And it's just, to me, you're missing out on a whole other level of life that, you know, you're just buying into something that's not really going to help you. So moving on, I want to show you how you do what Charles likes, but do it in a way that's not going to hurt your body and it's not going to hurt the planet. So I'll preface this by saying that all of this is locally made, locally produced. I got it from local farmers. It's all certified organic, and it's all the best quality that you can get. So here we've got some mixed berries. There's some strawberries. There's actually half kiwi fruit in there as well as some mulberries. That was more full. It would have looked better, but I ate most of it. So we've got some raw organic honey. Got some raw butter, which is cultured. So that's an excellent food right there. Some cinnamon, probably can't see that, but here we go, hopefully it doesn't fall out. Got some sugar, you can use Rapidura or coconut sugar. That's some raw cacao, some desiccated coconut. You can use anything, vanilla, anything that you like generally comes in a healthy form. So vanilla, cinnamon, chocolate, it all comes in its raw natural state. And you can get that and mix it in with some sugar and some butter, for example, and it'll taste awesome. What else? So if you want to, for example, bake something, like you can make pancakes, donuts, macaroons, muffins, anything out of these ingredients. Here we have coconut flour. And coconut flour, it's not very nutritious because it is processed, but it does not have any of the allergens that cause the intolerances like wheat and spelt and all those sorts of things. There's no gluten obviously in that. So you can use that, and I think you'll find as long as you're using it fairly sparingly, you're not going to have the stomach upsets. And of course some organic eggs that are made from grass-fed, free-range chickens. So if you are going to do this and you want to bake something, I can actually show you how to make a glaze another time, but if you were going to bake it, you'd use the butter, the desiccated coconut. If you wanted to, you know, make it thicker and things, you'd use the coconut flour as well. You'd use the eggs, and I'd use Rapidura or coconut sugar. The reason you don't want to use the honey is because it's raw, and you're better off really keeping that raw. It's much more healthful that way. If you wanted to make something like a cooler dessert and something you just mash together, like those bliss balls and things that people make, you'd use the butter, the honey, the coconut, and some of the chocolate, vanilla, cinnamon, whatever you want. And bearing in mind too that Charles says he loves the cold milk. This here is a viliculture. It's in a jar that I've just used from coconut oil, but Vili is basically, it's a yogurt. So it's a fermented milk. And I made this from that much Vili down the bottom, and then I pour some biodynamic milk in, and then I let it sit out for a day, and then it turns into that, which is a nice gloopy mixture. It's called Vili. Now, the thing with that is, even if you do have an intolerance to cow's milk, because that's fermented, the bacteria have broken down a lot of the casein and the sugars. So I think, plus the fact that it's got beneficial probiotics, most of the times when people have an intolerance to food, it can be an intolerance to that specific food, yes, but in general it's to do with a dysbiosis in the gut. So eating more fermented and probiotic foods is going to help reduce the amount of food intolerances that you actually have. And that comes out ice cold from the fridge. So you could make that and mix it with that, and you're going to have exactly what you want. It's going to taste better. And not only that, it's actually beneficial for you. This stuff together, this kind of quality saturated fat and quality sugars actually upregulates your thyroid function, which is going to help in it. You know, you don't need to tell you guys much about thyroid function because you talk about it a lot. So that's something that you guys can use, and none of that's hurting the planet. Everything, the way this was all, I guess, grown and made and brought to me actually helped the planet, besides the people that drove it to me, you know, but as best we can do in this world. And it's going to be beneficial for yourself as well. So you can literally have your cake and eat it too, if you go about things the right way. There's always, you know, more than one way to go about things. So just to finish out, I mean, Charles' big thing is strength, and like I say, I'll always listen to Charles when he's talking about strength. The guy's a strength sensei, as he's known now in the strength and conditioning world. But strength, let's just look at that very quickly. Strength, a lot of people talk about it in a very one-dimensional aspect when really strength is a universal thing. So who's to say who's stronger out of the guy who's, say, weighs 300 pounds and can squat 600 pounds with no problem, but he goes home to beat his wife because he's a jealous type, and his wife's been talking to a guy that day on email or on something like that, texting somebody. Or you've got a 135 pound guy that can't squat half his body weight, but he lost his parents when he was a kid, he's gone through cancer, survived it, and yet he still walks around with a smile on his face, and he still has enough strength to be kind to people. So strength is not just measured in how much you can lift or how big you can get, but it comes out in a lot of areas. And I just encourage people to find a balance between everything in their life and really question their beliefs, and look at another way that you can do pretty much anything. For the food, for example, there's always, if you have, again, I don't agree with the whole idea of cheat meals and everything, but if you have to cheat and you want something that's just going to be, you're not just going by your ratios and things all the time, which a lot of you guys do, just go ahead and eat this. None of it's going to hurt you, and none of it's going to help the planet. So it's win-win, and then you don't have to feel guilty about, again, that's another video altogether. I'm just going to finish up with something I wrote down here, which I'll read out. I guess to sum up the video, I just encourage people to be aware of the shadows that manifest in various ways, rather than feed your shadows with, say, donuts. It's more the purpose of life to learn and grow from your shadows than it is to live in the matrix and see how big and strong you can get and pacify yourself with matrix food. So something to think about. Again, none of this is judging anybody. This is just observations and just perhaps offering another perspective and another way of looking at the way we live our lives and where we're putting our energy into. So any questions, of course, email me. The description's in the bottom. Other than that, I hope you guys got something out of this video. And feel free to knock yourselves out with this sort of food. Tastes great, it's great for you. And that'll do for today. Take it easy.